Hello students. In this video we are going to be starting the reproduction in plants. In the previous video we learned about the reproduction in animals. Now we will learn about the other characteristics of living beings starting from reproduction in plants. Plants reproduce through seeds and stems. So there are different ways through which we can get new plants from existing plants, and two of those methods are using seeds and stems that are produced by mature plants. So we know that how we can get new plants from seeds is that by planting the seeds in the soil. For the next activity, we need to list out the plants that reproduce through seeds and stems. I have created two columns. The first one is for seed reproduction. So some example of plants that reproduce through seeds are coriander, peas, apples, paddy, etc. So these are the plants where we can plant seeds to get new plants. There is another way through which plants reproduce, that is by stem reproduction. What we do in stem reproduction is we take a part of the stem of an old plant and we plant it into the soil. That stem in turn becomes a new plant on its own. Let me show you an image. So here we have the stem of a rose plant that has been planted in the soil. As you can see, new roots are being generated from it. Okay, and eventually this plant will become a fully grown plant on its own. And this is an example for stem reproduction. So as the list, we have some plants here: aloe vera, ginger, onion and rose. You can find out more examples and add them to both of these lists. Let us move on to the next section, that is life cycle of a plant. So seed is an important part of reproduction in plants. So seed is an important part of reproduction in plants. Seeds developing from seeds is one of the wonders of the nature. So seeds developing from seeds means when you plant a seed, that seed is going to germinate. Germination is the process by which seeds become a small plant. Okay. So after germination, the plant is going to grow. It is going to bear flowers and fruits, and we can get new seeds from the plant. So that is how we can say the seeds will develop into new seeds. Some plants apart from seeds produce new plants through stem, buds, etc. You will learn more about them in your higher classes. So like we just learned, seed is not the only method through which plants reproduce. Instead, they can also reproduce through stem, buds, etc. Let us look at the life cycle of a plant. A life cycle of a plant producing seeds from a seed is given here. Observe. Let us start with the seed. So from the seed, we are going to get a small shoot that is going to develop into a plant. So we have already seen the image of this in the previous video. Let me show it to you again. So here we can see how the seeds are developing into new plants. Okay, so in the life cycle of a plant, it starts out as a seed and then it becomes a plant, as we can see here. Next, the new plant, it bears flowers or fruits. The flower, it's going to become a fruit, and from the fruit, first it is not ripened, then it is going to be a ripened fruit, and in a ripened fruit we can get a seed through which another plant can grow. So observe that this is a cycle and new plants are getting obtained from new seeds and so on. Let me show you the life cycle of a tomato. So as we can see here, it starts out as a seed that we are getting from a fruit. From the seed, we can get a young plant, and the young plant, it becomes a mature plant. From the mature plant, we get a flower, and we get a raw fruit. The fruit then ripens to become a ripe fruit, and from the ripe fruit we get seeds through which another plant can grow. So it's a cycle that keeps on continuing, giving us new plants. Think. Usually reproduction takes place by seeds in fruits. How is the reproduction in a coconut tree? Take the help of the teacher. So for this activity, we need to think about how coconut trees reproduce. So here is an image from which we can see that there is a small sapling that is growing from a coconut. So when a coconut tree produces coconuts, the coconuts are initially tender and then they become matured. So here you can see the brown fibrous coconut, and when this is planted, it then develops a new shoot or a new sapling. This can then be planted to get a new coconut. So this is how coconut trees reproduce, with the help of the coconuts after they have been matured. Okay, so this is how we see reproduction in coconut plants. The next activity is reproduction of plants is advantageous to animals, including human beings, in many ways. Discuss with your friends and list them. I have given a list of some of the uses of reproduction in plants. The first and most important use is many animals, including human beings for some portion of our diets, depend upon plants for food. So imagine the life of herbivores like cows, deer, etc. All these animals, they depend directly on the availability of plants for food. If plants did not reproduce, then the quantity of plants, that is quantity of available food, will go on decreasing, and thus this will cause adverse effect in animals. So animals need plants for their food sources. Okay, so that is the first advantage of animals. The next advantage is to human beings, we obtain numerous raw materials from plants. So we obtain raw materials such as cotton, fiber, etc. from plants. If reproduction in plants is absent, then we will not be able to obtain all these from plants. Another advantage of reproduction is whenever plants are trying to reproduce, flowers attract insects such as honeybees so that the seeds can be dispersed to a large area of land. Let me show you an image. So here we have a honeybee that is trying to get nectar from a flower. If you look closely on the honeybee, you can see the yellow seeds from the flower that are spread over the honeybee. The honeybee will take these and it will go to the next flower. You will learn in higher classes that this is how pollination takes place, which is crucial for reproduction in flowers. So because plants need reproduction, they provide nectar for insects such as honeybees. Okay, so this is a symbiotic, or it is a beneficial relationship between the insects and flowers, that is because of reproduction in plants. So this is another reason because of which reproduction of plants is advantageous to animals. Up next, we have the next characteristic, that is living beings respond to stimulus. So what does stimulus mean is any change in the environment of a living being is called as a stimulus. So any change in the environment of a living being is called as a stimulus to that living being. When thorns prick our feet, we feel pain. So whenever we are walking on a road barefooted and if something sharp comes under our feet, we immediately feel pain. Then what do we do when we feel pain? It's not like we stay as it is, we immediately take our feet back. Okay? So in this case, the pain is the stimulus and our response is how we take our feedback quickly. We have observed our body shivering in cold, snake hissing in self-defense, and buffaloes getting into water to cool off during excess heat. Some insects bite us when we touch them. Animals shout. Like this, organisms respond in their own way. So if you consider these examples, here we have, so being cold outside is the stimulus and us shivering is our response. And some danger being posed to the snake, which requires self-defense, is the stimulus, and the snake hissing is the response. The excess heat is the stimulus to the buffaloes, and getting into water to cool off is the response. In the case of insects biting us, we touching them is the stimulus, and them biting us back is the response. Similarly, like this, organisms respond in their own way. All these are the responses given by organisms to surrounding stimulus. So the plural of the word stimulus is stimuli. Okay, so the plural is stimuli. And when there is stimulus surrounding an organism, it responds in a reasonable manner to as an action to that particular stimulus. Living beings respond to changes in their surrounding environment. Usually, they respond to touch, heat, cold, sound and smell. So these are the different stimuli that we are evolved to respond to. So they are touch, heat, cold, sound and smell. They have special organs for these. So for each of these stimulus, to sense them, we have special organs. We sense the stimulus in our environment through our sense organs. We will learn more about this in our higher classes. Now, observe the pictures. Folding the leaves when touched in Touch Me Not plant. So Touch Me Not plant is a plant which has a unique way of responding to stimulus. Why does this do is because whenever a herbivorous animal is trying to graze the Touch Me Not plant and they come and touch the plant, it becomes smaller. So in this way it does this to discourage the herbivorous from eating it. Let me show you a video. So as you can see here, whenever somebody is touching the Touch Me Not plant, the leaves of it fold. In this case, touching is the stimulus and the response of the plant is the leaves folding. The stinging of scorpion when some external thing touches it, flower of sunflower plant turning towards the sun. These are the ways that organisms respond to stimuli. Okay, so these are the different stimuli and different organisms respond to them in a different manner. In the next exercise, think. A calf jumping when it sees mother cow. Mother bird crying in distress when young ones are not found in the nest. A mother hen protecting its chicks either by covering them with wings or attacking the cat or eagle to protect the chicks. All these exhibit animal feelings. Think and list out the feelings of different organisms. So here we have a case where whenever there is a response to stimuli that is happening, there is also an accompanying feeling in the organisms. So the exercise is for us to try and make out what feeling the animal might be feeling at that moment. So I will do the first one for you. The first one is when a calf is jumping when it sees its mother. Whenever a calf sees its mother, the feeling might be of recognition, or the calf may be feeling safe, or even happiness. Okay? So we may not know exactly what the animals are feeling, but we can make an educated guess. So here I have given you hints along the lines of which you can think about. When the calf sees its mother cow, it may be feeling recognition, safety, or even happiness. For the mother bird that doesn't find her young ones in the nest, you have it right here that she is feeling distress. Next, we have a hen that is trying to protect its chicks, and it may be feeling defensive or protective. So you can think about it and you can add on to these feelings. It is time for a quiz. The question is, we remove our hands quickly when we touch something hot. Identify the stimulus and response in this action and reaction. So if you need time to think, you can pause the video before I give you the solution. So the stimulus in this case is the heat from the hot substance that we have touched, and the removing of our hand is our response. Whenever you see a question like this, always keep in mind that the stimulus comes before the response, so that the first action is the stimulus and the next one is the response. The next characteristics that we are considering is living beings have lifespan. All organisms take birth, become adults, reproduce, become old and die. The period between birth and death of an organism is called as its lifespan. So the time that has elapsed between the birth and the death of an organism is called as its lifespan. Here we have the average lifespan of some animals. For example, the lifespan of turtle is called as the lifespan of turtle is 150 years, and you can see that the lifespan of elephants and human beings are quite similar. For elephants it's 70 years, whereas for human beings it's 70 to 80 years. Similarly, for cows we have 20 years, eagles is also 20 years, and so on. So another characteristic of living beings is that they have lifespans. So based on the lifespan of living beings, plants are classified into annuals, biennials and perennials. Let us see what they mean. Understand it through the following pictures. Annuals are plants which bear fruit, produce fruits and die in a year or a season. So if the entire life cycle of a plant is completed in one season, it is called as an annual plant. Let me show you the life cycle. As we can see here, the life cycle of a plant can be said to start from a seed. Then when you sow the seed, you can get the young plant which develops into the mature plant, which then bears flowers. So these flowers, they develop into fruits, which then give us seeds. If this entire cycle just takes 1 year, then the plant is called as an annual plant. Annual is one year, so they are called as annual plants. It can also be completed within one season itself. Okay. Some examples are jowar, wheat, paddy, pumpkin, vegetables and cotton. So as we can see here, most of the food grains, they are annual plants. We have another kind of plants called as biennial plants. Plants which live up to 2 seasons. Plants which live up to 2 years or 2 seasons produce flower, fruit and seeds and then terminate or die. They are called as biennials. So these plants, they live up to 2 years or 2 seasons. For example, carrot, ginger, cabbage, sugarcane and beetroot. There is the third category, which is the perennials. These are plants which live up to many years and keep producing flower, fruit and seeds. So instead of terminating within just 1 or 2 years or seasons, these plants, they live for many years. For example, mango, lemon, coconut, neem, jackfruit and areca nut. So areca nut is adike, which we eat with betel leaves. Okay, so these are all trees that live up to many years. The next question is, write the uses of the plants given below. So I have already listed out the uses by season. Here we have annual plant. These are seasonal plants and they can be cultivated and harvested throughout the year. This means that during no season of the year, the harvest is absent. Okay, so for every season, you have a different kind of plant that can be cultivated and grown. That is one use of having plants that are harvested annually or seasonally. Next, we have the use that since the life cycle is short, the farmers, they do not have to wait long for harvesting the plants. Therefore, they can sell them and get the profit. That is the second use. Next, we can have biennial plants, and these are plants that live a little longer than annual plants. And the use is that they can be used as decorative plants for longer period of time. So if we have a garden in our houses, we can grow biennial plants and have them for decorative purposes. Biennial plants like onions can be used to obtain new plant shoots. Once we have gotten the onion from the onion plant, we can still allow the mature plant to grow to help us get new shoots to plant and grow new onion plants. Okay, so these are another use of biennial plants. Next we have perennials. As we saw here, most of the perennials are trees. And we have a number of use of trees. We know that trees give us shade, they give us number of raw materials like wood, and they are helpful in preventing soil erosion. So these are the use of perennial plants. Another use is multiple harvest cycles are present throughout the year. So we need not have to go on planting these trees every year. Instead, if they mature and become adult trees, then we'll be getting fruits for years to come. Apart from the lifespan, plants are classified based on the nature of seed leaf as monocotyledonous and dicotyledonous plants. So seed leaf are the structure of the seed. For us to understand the difference between monocotyledonous and dicotyledonous seeds, this is an experiment that we can do. Take ragi and groundnut seeds, put them into two separate water-filled glasses before going to sleep. Next day morning, drain the water. Press tightly the ragi and groundnut seed with your hands. Share your experience. When we do this, we will observe that while the groundnut seed, it splits cleanly into two halves, the ragi seed just breaks into pieces. Let me show you a picture. So here we have ragi. As you can see, they are round, and when you press them, you can either get the ragi flour or you can get pieces of the seed. However, if you consider the groundnut, it can easily be broken into two halves, as you can see here. So ragi is an example of a monocotyledonous plant, whereas groundnut is a dicotyledonous plant. The mono means one and cotyledonous means having seed leaf. Okay. Monocotyledonous seed has only one cotyledon. For example, jowar, ragi, wheat, paddy and millets. And dicotyledonous means di is two. Okay. These have two cotyledons. Example, horse gram, groundnut, red gram, Bengal gram and black gram. So most of the food grains are monocotyledonous, whereas most of the pulses, they are dicotyledonous. So you can collect any more monocotyledonous and dicotyledonous as that you know of. So you have learnt about the characteristic of living beings. Plants and animals are two important components of the environment, but nowadays their number is decreasing as a result of humans' greediness. Protection of plants and animals is the need of the day. Why should we protect plants? For rain, for food and for future generations. So here are the reasons for which we should protect our environment. Here we have a very interesting incident that is going to highlight the importance of animal protection. Once in Borneo, So Borneo is an island that is shared between three countries, that is Brunei, Indonesia and Malaysia. Okay, there were too many flies. Whenever there are too many flies, like we spray insecticides to get rid of mosquitoes, insecticides were used to control them. And then all the flies, they died. Lizards started eating the dead flies. So we know that lizards, they consume flies for their food and they started eating the dead flies. As a result, the insecticides in the body of the flies entered the lizard's body. And because the lizard's body had the insecticide, their movement slowed. And because of this, the cats, they could easily hunt the lizards. The cats, they used to consume the lizards and now they could easily hunt them down. And the insecticides entered the body of the cat through the lizards. And this resulted in the death of many cats. As the number of cats decreased, the number of rats increased enormously. Because there was no cats to eat the rats, they multiplied and their number increased enormously. Because of this, plague disease erupted and caused the death of many people. Plague is a disease that is spread by rats. And because of the huge number of rats, the disease spread very rapidly and this caused the death of many people. Government had to import cat from different countries. This incident conveys the importance of animal protection and balance of living beings in nature. Many more points about the importance of animal protection is given below. Read them. Animals play an important role in maintaining the environmental balance. If animals are destroyed, it affects other organisms as there will be scarcity of food. So imagine if instead of the lizards or the cat population dying out, if a plant population had died out, then all the herbivorous animals that were dependent on that plant would face scarcity of food. Okay, so it's a very fragile balance in our ecosystem where each and every organism is very important. In the recent years, the government has taken measures to protect animals through national forests, wildlife sanctuaries and bird sanctuaries and reserved forests. Hunting is banned. So for our next activity, we have to list out the national reserve forests, wildlife sanctuaries and bird sanctuaries in Karnataka. Here I have already prepared a list for you. You can add on to this list when you find more to add on. We have Biligiri Rangan Swami Temple Wildlife Sanctuary, Bhadra Wildlife Sanctuary, Dandeli Wildlife Sanctuary and Pushpagiri Wildlife Sanctuary. We also have different bird sanctuaries in Rangantittu, Adichunchangiri, Ativeri, Gudavi and Ramadevrabetta Vulture Sanctuary. In addition to this, we also have dedicated tiger reserves in Karnataka. Those are in Bandipur, Bhadra, Nagarhole, Dandeli Anshi and the Biligiri Rangan Temple Forest. Okay, so you can add on to this list by finding more national reserves and forest reserves. The living world around us is a wonder. Knowing about the plants and animals, we should protect them. Then only the existing environment we see now will be available to the future generations. Remember always that if we protect nature, it will protect us. So this is the end of the lesson, Living World. I will see you all in the next lesson.